while we get started here. So again, welcome today. My name is Harry Sun, and I am a fellow at CGU's Cafe Center, the Center for Academic and Faculty Excellence. At Cafe, we host a range of different webinars throughout the semester. And in this semester in particular, I'm going to be hosting a series of webinars, all focusing on AI. And today, I'm going to be talking about installing and using a local AI system. Here is a quick overview of what we'll go through today. So first of all, I want to talk about what is local AI, the definition. Since I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, this is kind of a new concept to me as well. So we're going through what's the definition and using an example. And also, I want to talk about the pros and cons of local AI. I don't want to make it sound like I'm promoting it in any way. So, but I want to make sure that you get the fair enough information for you to judge whether local AI is for you or not by talking about some of the advantages and disadvantages it brings to us. And then I'm gonna, so that's gonna be the talking part in the front. And for the second half of this session, I'm going to be focused on walking you through different demos of different softwares that can run local AI. I'm going to talk about two softwares that can run on your personal computers, Olama and Docker. And I'm going to then also introduce you to one of the apps that can be used on your local on Apple operating system. So they can be used on your iPhone as well. And then I'm going to conclude with some final thoughts and as well as open up for any questions you may have. And just as a reminder that if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to comment in the chat and I'll try my best to answer them. I'm seeing one question already. Do you provide the PowerPoint slides as well? Yes, I could. I will have the slides ready after the webinar if you like. And where do we get the webinar recordings afterwards? So the recordings will be emailed to you, but also all of the recordings, all of the webinar recordings will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. So if you search Cafe or Center for Academic and Faculty Excellence on YouTube, you'll be able to find the recordings of all of our past webinars. And thank you for the question. We'll get started. Before we start, I just want to briefly introduce myself. Again, my name is Harry Sun, and I am a PhD student here at CGU and getting my doctorate degree in positive developmental psychology. And my main area of research interest is on flow experience. But also prior to coming to CGU, I have earned a bachelor degree in computer science and a master degree in human-computer interaction. And hence, I always kind of have this interest in technology ever since the emergence of AI. That has been my main area of interest as well. So what is local AI, right? I want to start today's session with a definition of what it is. So in very simple terms, local AI are AI systems that can run on local devices rather than online servers. So local AI are AI systems that can run on your computer, on your mobile devices. It does not need to involve any online servers. Now, many of you, when you're talking about AI, I see in the chat that people have used ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini's. So those AIs are AIs that actually run on remote servers. So for example, ChatGPT relies on running through OpenAI's cloud servers. Cloud runs on AWS servers, Gemini, Google's cloud servers, Copilot on Azure servers. And so what happens when you use servers like, for example, ChatGPT, is that you will send the prompt or request on your end, and the request is going to route through the internet and to one of their OpenAI's cloud servers. That's going to be an actual data center with thousands of computers running at the same time that form the AI system. So once that prompt is delivered to those data servers, they will analyze the prompt, generate an output, and get that delivered back to you through the internet. And so that is kind of how it works with when you're using like online AI tools. But when you're using local AI, the difference is that instead of having to send the prompt, send the request to the server, you're sending the request to your local device where the AI system is located or installed, so that the prompt get analyzed locally and the output is also generated locally. So that way, it does not require that internet transmission between your device, and the server. So that's the main difference between a local AI and an online AI tool. And that's just as to help you even understand the difference, I came up with an example, what I call the AI oven. So we all know that this is an oven that we can use it for many different things. We can make pizzas, make pies, bake bread, all of that. And so what happens when you use an oven is I feel like it's very similar to how we interact with the AI system, right? So when we use AI system, we feed some prompt or some questions, and it will give us some answers or response. Just like how we can put food or ingredients into the oven, and it will turn them into food. Now, when let's say if you want to have a pizza, right? There's two ways you can get it. You can either make a call to a pizza restaurant, and tell them that you would like to order a pizza, and so that they will make the pizza and get it delivered to you once it's done. So this is kind of like making the request to online servers, right? So you make the call just like how you would send the prompt to the AI's online server, and then once a prompt is analyzed, it'll get it back delivered to you. But there's a second way you can make pizza, is through doing it at home. So you can take frozen pizza, or either make the pizza dough yourself and put it in the oven at your own home. That way, and when it's cooked, you can eat it right away. So this is kind of like how it works when you're using local AI, is that you don't have to make the call or send a prompt to somewhere else. You can cook everything or make generalize your response locally at your own home or at your own device. And so that is kind of the metaphor I'm seeing with to help you even understand better what the difference between local AI and the online AI system. So having talked about that, I want to transition to talk a little bit about dive deeper into some of the pros and cons I'm seeing with local AI. So again, I don't want to make local AI sound like it's the perfect tool. It's not, but I do see a lot of advantages as well as some disadvantages that's associated with it. So I'm hoping that by the end of this webinar, when you leave this session, you have a fair understanding of what it is, what it can provide, and where it cannot provide, and understand when you might want to use it or not. So I will start with the advantages. First and foremost, one of the things that got discussed the most when people are talking about local AI is the privacy and the security it provides. So imagine in some kind of hospital where they have a lot of patient information, medical information. So if people in this hospital are trying to use AI to help them analyze those information or organize those information, that means they will need to upload this information onto the AI server. And that often could cause a big problem, right? Because if you're thinking about using online AI such as ChatGPT, any prompt or any information you feed into ChatGPT could be used for its training purposes. That means any information you input could um, could be used to generalize response for some other people. So imagine if the hospital who has the patient information um, input this information into ChatGPT's online server, then that means somebody else at the other end of the world could have access to this information, which is what we're trying to avoid. And one thing to avoid those is through the use of local AI, because when you're using local AI, any information, any input, any prompt you feed into the AI stays locally on your own device. It never leaves your device. It never get uploaded to the cloud server. So that way, it kind of eliminates the risk of any leaking of information. That way, it protects information privacy as well as security. So that's the first point. The second point I'm seeing with local AI is that the advantage I see is it can run without in the internet because everything stays locally. That means your AI system, the knowledge also stays locally so that you can interact with it even without any internet connection. And sometimes that could become really handy because imagine, so for example, in the past break, I went to visit Joshua National Park for the first time. And what I didn't realize is how limited the service are when I'm inside the national park. So that without internet service, that means I don't have a lot access to a lot of things, including ChatGPT. But if I have local AI installed, even without the internet connection, I could still use it to ask a lot of questions. So that way it comes in really handy. So that's the second advantage I see with local AI is that it can survive without the internet. And my next point is that local AI can also provide you with choice over various AI models. So think about when you're using services like ChatGPT, you're often limited to a certain amount of models that's provided through the company. But in reality, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of AI models that's out there that's available. But so when you're using local AI, when you're downloading those AI models locally, you can choose which AI model you want to work with. And while this by itself may not sound like an advantage, but if we think about the customization and optimization of models it provides, that could really become a huge advantage. So for example, there are certain AI models that are specialized in certain tasks. So they're kind of like the experts in certain areas. So there are AI models that specialize in programming and coding related knowledge. There are AI models that specialize in research areas there, and there are AI tools that is specialized in like all general purpose knowledge. So when you're using local AI, depending on what type of task you want it to do, right? So let's say, for example, you really want to use AI to help you to do some programming and coding. You can choose an AI model that specializes in those tasks. And often these AI models will give you better response than if you're using, for example, ChatGPT's online general purpose AI model. So that kind of customization and optimization of the model you use can really become helpful if you know what AI model you want to work with. And the next point I want to talk about is about the cost, right? So we all know that if you're using online AI tools, they often come with a subscription if you want to use some of the premium features. So for example, I think ChatGPT's, if you want to use a premium version ChatGPT, it will require a $20 per month subscription fee that's equal to about $240 per year. But if you're using local AI, that cost is often none, it's often come to no cost or very low cost. Because first of all, there are certain softwares that can host local AI, and many of the softwares you can download for free. So, and the next thing you need is just an AI model. And there are also a tons of free available open source AI models that companies like OpenAI provide, companies like Google provide. Now, they might not be the most advanced AI model, or nor they might not be the most complex AI models you can find, but those are really good models nevertheless, and they can be downloaded and installed on your device for free. So in terms of cost, I think local AI really stands out in that you can use some of the good models, but at a very low to no cost. And another advantage I see with a local AI, this one is often less recognized. So if you leave this workshop remembering this, and then you can talk with your friends, and it's like I think this is one of the big takeaways you can take from today's session, is that local AI really helps in terms of helping environmental sustainability. So I will tell you that when you're using online AI tools, what you don't realize is that often it requires a large amount of power, large amount of electricity, and large amount of water just to provide those services. Because what happens is that, for example, let's use ChatGPT for an example. In order to provide the 24/7 services through ChatGPT's AI server, that means there has to be some kind of large data centers that are running 24/7. And those data centers often have thousands of machines, computers running at the same time so that it can provide ChatGPT's AI system. And so in order for the data center to sustain those different machines and computers, it will require a large amount of electricity every day. And also, we know that when the computer is running, it will generate a lot of heat. And when the system is overheated, the performance will also be impacted. So that in order to reduce the heat to maintain the performance, those data centers also use a ton of water every day to run through the system to make sure that the computer stay cool and preserve its performance. And actually, the amount of environmental impact that AI center is having is kind of climbing up a ladder into becoming one of the most most impacting industries to our environment. And while a lot of those things are true when you're using online AI tools, when you're using local AI, a lot of this impact disappears because, well, first of all, you do not need to use water or electricity to cool down your system, right? Because everything stays locally. So what you're already using is like having AI system running on your computer doesn't bring extra power that will be required compared to if you use online systems. So that's the thing. That's the point about environmental sustainability. And finally, I want to talk about the one last thing that a lot of people might overlook, but I think could be important depending on the type of work you're doing, is reproducibility. So what it means is that when you use local AI system, you're more likely to reproduce the same response using the same prompt. However, this is not the case when you're dealing with most online AI systems. The reason is that when you're using online AI systems, the AI models it's working with is constantly updating, right? It's updating from moment to moment. So if you use the same prompt now and 6 months from now, you'll likely get a different response just because the knowledge base of the AI models keeps accumulating. However, when you're using local AI models, because the AI models are already configured, that way you can easily reproduce the same response using the same prompt. And nowadays, more and more usage of AI, that could become really important. So for example, if you're using AI for anything scientific publication related, the reviewers might ask you to submit the prompt you use when you're interacting with the AI to verify that the information you get through AI is true. But if you're using online AI tools, it may be really hard for them to replicate the same findings you had a year ago when you submit your articles. So that if you use local AI, you can make sure that whoever wants to reproduce your result can still do it even 1 year from now. So that is all 7 major advantages I see with local AI. However, using AI locally can also bring a lot of disadvantages to us. So one of the most important thing I see is that you don't have access to the cutting edge models when you're using local AI. When I'm talking about cutting edge models, I'm talking about ChatGPT's, OpenAI's, state-of-the-art complex models that is huge in size, that is very complex, with a lot of knowledge, and those models are often hosted by the company's data center because it will require a large amount of machines running at the same time to sustain the power it needs. Those AI models are huge, and so that's the one reason that those companies wouldn't be providing those models locally. So when you're using local AI, you're often dealing with maybe a less compromised model that is smaller in size. The second point with when it comes to local AI is that it will require some hardwares on your computer to run. So in order to run a complex AI models locally, you would need a really good GPU or graphic card, because those AI systems, they consume a lot of memories, storage on your computer, so that it will impose that if you want to run a complex model, you need a good hardware. However, if you're only going with the medium size or small size model, or if your computer does not have a really good hardware, you can still run AI locally. The trick is you just have to select a smaller model that can run easily, that can be sustained by your computer's hardware. And my third point here is also associated with the hardware requirement, is that when you're using local AI, there may need to be some kind of compromise in terms of the speed or the performance, right? So if your computer is not enough to support but you're trying to run a very complex model, then what will happen is that the speed or the time it takes for you to get a response may be longer compared to your online model. But if you want to get a faster response, if you want to prioritize speed, then you may need to go with a simple model. But that way, when you go in with simple model, there may be some kind of compromise in terms of the performance of the model you get. But I want to also acknowledge a point that a lot of people assume that, okay, so if I choose the less complex model, if I choose a simpler model, my response is not going to be as good, right? That is a common understanding of people having over AI models, but that is not actually true. You can still get a very good response from running a very simple model, because like I said, there are different AI models that are specialized in different tasks. So if you choose a simple model that is specialized in coding and you ask coding related questions, you're going to get a very good response. However, if you chose a very complex model that is not specialized in anything, and you try to ask some coding questions, then that way you may not even get a good response. So while the complexity of the model matters. Knowing what you do and choosing the right model, I think matters even more. So that is to summarize, that is like what I see as the pros and cons of AI models. And I think it really comes down to understanding what you need and choosing the right model. But I think there's a lot of advantages that a local AI models brings, and depending on use cases, like I think getting a little bit usage of both could be helpful. Okay, so that is the front part of today's session. I have talked about what is local AI and what are some advantages and disadvantages it brings. And so for the second part of today's session, I want to introduce you and running some demos on how you can install and use AI locally. And to tell you the truth, setting up those is really easy, right? Setting up AI locally doesn't require any programmings. There are existing softwares, and they're helping users with non-programming experience to use AI locally. So I picked two of those tools, but in reality, there are a lot of other tools that people have been using. I chose those two to demonstrate because I think they provide the most user-friendly interface, and they provide a very similar experience compared to some of the online AI tools that people are using. So the first one I'm going to be talking about today is Ollama. So Ollama is a software that can host local AI models and provide a very simple, user-friendly interface that is very similar to the experience of using ChatGPT. So what I'm going to do is that I will show you how to download it first, and then I'm going to show you what you can do after you have downloaded the software. So to get started, you just need to go to ollama.com. And then once you're there, I'll paste the link of this website to the group chat as well, so that if you're interested, you can check it out. Once you're there, just simply hit download, and this software works with both Mac operating system as well as Windows operating system. It might take a while to download. So another thing you can see from here is if you go to on top of the page and select models, and then you'll be able to see a list of different AI models that Ollama supports and provide. And here on the first, you can see that on the top, there are 5 different categories you can choose from. Those are different features that different AI models provide. So there are thinking models. Thinking models are models that, in addition to the response you get from feeding a prompt, you also see the thinking process behind the AI's reasoning. So those could be really helpful. So for example, if you're using AI and feeding a prompt, but you don't really like the response, or if like response does not really get what you mean, then you can go back to the thinking process and track where might have AI gone wrong, and you can kind of track where things went wrong, and you can correct it in your next prompt. There are also, in addition to thinking prompt, there are also vision prompts that will take, in addition to text input, that will also take image input, so that you can upload images as part of your prompt as well. So when you click into those, it will automatically filter out models that come with those features. So for example, here you can see that this Queen 3B model, you can see that it is a vision model that also has the thinking feature. And here it also have different numbers. So 2B, 4B, 8B, And these numbers are actually representing the size of the model. So 2B means that the model will have 2 billion parameters, 4B, 4 billion parameters. And as you can imagine, the larger the parameters, the more parameters it has, the larger the size of the model is, and the more complex or more knowledgeable the model is. But however, as a rule of thumb, if you're thinking about running a model that's, let's say, larger than 10 billion parameters, that will often require a sophisticated GPU to run. But I think if you're going with 2 billion and 4 billion parameters, I think most computer will be able to handle. So just for demonstration purposes, I will click into the Queen3 model here. And once you're in there, you can see a list of models that the Queen3 VL has. And you can see that it has the 2 billion here, 4 billion here. And let's say I want to download and use 2 billion model. I'll just click into that. And you can see here is a code that you can copy and run on your local device. But however, I noticed that with the latest version update of the Olama, once you have downloaded, I'm going to show you here on the screen. You don't actually need to use the code at all. What you can do is that once you have downloaded Olama, this is the interface you will see. It is quite similar to ChatGPT's online interface in that you could type in your prompt here. You could attach files as well with the plus button. And what's different is that here, if you click this button, it will give you a list of different models, right? Some of those models are downloaded, some are not. You can tell by whether it has this download icon. So for example, I have already downloaded the Gamma 3 1B model so that I can use it. But however, if this is the first time you're using Olama, likely you have no model that's already downloaded. And so if you want to download a model, you just simply have to click into the model here. So for example, I'm trying to use Queen3 4 billion parameters model. I'll click on that. And I'll simply just feed in my prompt. And then you will see the first thing it's trying to do is to download this model on your computer. So that way, once it has finished downloading, it will reply to the prompt you just feed into it. While we're waiting for it to download, I also want to show you another feature that I think is really convenient and could be really useful. So that if you go to the settings on the left menu here, you go to settings, you can see that here there's a customized feature where you can change the contact lens. And this feature, I think, is, to my knowledge, is only available in local AI models. If you want to change, like, if you and it's not available to change when you're using online AI models. But this feature is really useful, and I will explain a little bit about what it does. So contact lens determines how much memory your AI system have on your prior conversations or on your attachments. So for example, if you have a lot of files, data files, and you want AI to analyze them, you have to attach those files, right? But if the files are there are too many files, then once the size of the file reach the contact length limit, then all of the new files or all of the old files will be replaced by the new files. Same thing if you are having a conversation and having a continuous conversation with AI, and you want AI to generate new response based on your private conversations, then how much prior information do you want AI to remember, right? If you want the AI to remember more of your prior information and use that to help you generalize a future response, then you can set a higher contact length so that AI will be able to remember more of the prior history. So, and this feature, you can set it from 4K all the way to 256K. I recommend, um, depending on your usage, setting it to an appropriate number. Oh, and okay, so I think the Queen model was just downloaded, so I'm going to test it by feeding in some prompt, and you can see that it's a syncing model. It will spell out the syncing process before while it's generating the response. So I'm just going to wait for a minute for it to generate. And so you can see here, the speed, so just for the simple prompt, it took about 21 seconds. And this could be due to the size of the model. It could be due to the fact that I'm having multiple applications running, Zooms, Chromes, that's taking a lot of usage on my computer. But this is related to my point that when you're using local AI system, especially if you're using a bit more complex systems, the speed, you may expect lower speed compared to some of the online AI tools. So that is a very quick demonstration of how to use Llama. And I think everything is pretty straightforward. It is very user-friendly, has a very clean interface. The next example I want to show you today provides a very similar experience to Llama, except that it has some other features that some of you might be interested in. So it is called Docker. So I'm going to show you how you can download it first. If you go to docker.com, you can click download Docker desktop, and it will have options for Mac operating system, Windows, as well as Linux. So choose the operating system that works for you. And once it's downloaded, I'm gonna open it on my desktop. Taking a second. Okay. So once it's downloaded and it's open, it will look something like this. So if you go to the left-hand side menu and select models, and there are 4 tabs on top, and by default it's going to the local models. So you can see that the local models will list all the existing local AI models that I have already downloaded. You can see here I already have the Gamma 3 latest model downloaded. And to run this model, I simply need to click this little run button, and it will take me to a chat interface where I can ask questions. But what's really interesting about the Docker desktop is that every time you feed in some prompt and get a response, you can see what is happening on the backend. So it's taking a second to getting the prompt to reply. So we'll wait for a second. But you will see in the request, once you get a response, and you can go to the request, and you can see what is actually fitting into the AI system, what is happening on the back end. And what I really like about this is that you can also kind of expect the contact length. So how much contact length the prompt has used. For some reason, it's taking extra long for this. So, but yeah, so once the response is generated, you can see another entry pop up here, and you can see a lot of information here. But I'll go back to the models and show you how you can download and install models from internet. So to do that, you just need to go to models again, and instead of going to local models, you can select the Docker Hub. And here you see um, different AI models that is supported by the Docker desktop. And for example, if we click into the Queen's 3 coder model, you'll see a brief description that is the Queen's newest series of coding agent models that is specialized in coding. And we can see that this model has 30 billion parameters, so it is quite a large model, and it will take about 16.5 gigabytes in size. So let's say if we want to download this model and run it on our own computer, all we have to do is click this pull button here. And once I do that, it will start downloading the model onto my computer. And once the downloading is finished, it will show up when we go to our local models, and it will show up here, right? So again, this is very easy to use. It provides lots of different models that are out there. And I think it's a really user-friendly interface as well. So that is the quick example of what the using AI models with the Docker app. And so the next example I want to show you today is local AI system software that can be run on Apple operating system. So it can be run on your iPhones, it can be run on iPad, as well as on your Mac as well. And this app is called Locally AI. So since I'm not on my computer, I will just show you, kind of go to their website and show you what it looks like. So if we go to Locally AI, and I'll put the website link in the chat so that if you're interested in downloading on your phone. And so local AI has support a limited amount of models because by default, the phone has a limited capacity. So it has chosen those 8 different models that it will run smoothly on your phone. But there are also like other great choices here: DeepSeek, Queen, Llama, Gamma. I think more models are being uploaded and will be supported in the future. And what the interface look like is the interface look like somewhere like this, right? So you can type in your prompt here. You can select attachment here, and so the interface is really similar. If you have used ChatGPT's mobile version, it's providing a really similar experience. And what's different is that on the top here, you can see currently it's saying Gamma 3 QAT4B. That is the AI model that this app is using. So if you want to change that model, you simply need to click into that, and it will show you a list of AI models. Some of them you might have to download, but if you download it, you can switch between models to get a response. And those, since this is a local AI model, that means once the model has downloaded, you don't need any internet connection to use it, right? You can use it anywhere, anytime, even without internet connection. So I thought that's a really, and also is available on all Apple operating system, including iPad as well. And because of the time, I don't have time to introduce some other models, softwares, but I'll mention that this one additional AI models is called Anything LLM. And this is software that I see a lot of developers are using. I tried to download it myself, and I didn't find it as quite user-friendly. However, I think it has more features, maybe more AI model that's available on the software that you can use. However, so I'll just put it out there for anyone who is interested. And I think another thing you may be interested in is that if you're using an Android system, I think this locally LLM also has an Android feature, so that if you want to use this on your Android phone, you can absolutely download this anything LLM on your Android devices. So I'll put it out there for anyone who's interested. Okay. So having walking through those different demos, I hope you have gained better confidence in like installing and running local AI model. I think some of the softwares are really good at providing a good, easy, friendly user interface and relatively easy user experience. And I see that right now with there are more and more local AI softwares that's popping up. So maybe in 6 months there'll be another softwares that are even better. So I think the future of local AI is looking really promising, and as and with the consideration that there will be more AI models, better AI models will be made available by more companies in the future, and we'll also have better hardwares to handle this complex AI models in the future. So right now we might be limited to run certain models on our phone because the how much operating system can handle. But in the future, when the software is updated, the hardware is better on devices, we may be able to run a very complex AI system purely locally on our devices. And another thing I want to conclude with is use case matters. And I think I've been kind of stressing that the whole throughout the whole conversation is that you have to know what your use case is, right? Whether you're using AI for coding purposes, for research purposes, or just for some simple tasks. There's always going to be an AI model that's going to be specialized for that. So if you can spend some time researching which AI model can fit you better, then there's a chance that you will find a very good AI model that is very comparable to some of the online AI models that you can run completely offline. Um, so that is all I have for this webinar, and thank you all for attending this session. I hope you have learned something useful and feel more confident about on running local AI. And from here, I will take some time for questions. Thank you all. Okay, we have a question from Yared. What local AI models can we use for a cancer radiotherapy treatment research project? Okay, I think in terms of recommendations for a certain AI models, I think that's a good question. Honestly, I have heard from my own experience, there are some recommendations of AI models that is generally good for research purposes, but I have not dived too deep into in terms of this specific research project. I think what you can do is there are a lot of local AI communities online, and that is where I see a lot of recommendations from. So uh, yeah, so if you could maybe go to some of the communities, and maybe you can find the AI model that's good for your purpose. Um, we have another question. Also, what models are good for economics? Could you clarify further in terms of economics, in terms of whether you're using it for studying purposes, research purposes? Okay, so research. Yeah, I would say I don't know a good model that's specific for economics, but you can absolutely do a search online. I think there might be some results. So what it might would what would determine whether it's a good model or not, rather is kind of relying on what kind of training data it has, right? So you can maybe search for some AI models that has been trained with a lot of economic knowledges or research articles, and um, also I want to, since we're on this point, I'm glad you brought it up. I also want to mention a point that if you want, you can absolutely configure or train a local AI model yourself, right? You can take an AI model, um, and you can feed into it a lot of the, let's say, economic articles, research articles that you can find. You can feed all of that into the AI model so that you're kind of training your own, making it becoming an expert in a certain area. Then you can absolutely do that with AI model. Now, to do that, you may need a little bit of it may require a little bit of programming, but I think it's worth it, right? If you want to get it and turn it into a specialized kind of like AI agent. We have another question from Wei. Is local AI going to eat up a lot of local HDD, which means you need a laptop, which um, yes and no. So I think HDD is, if I'm understanding correctly, is a physical space, is a physical drive, right? So large AI models will install and downloading it may requires, I'm seeing like sometimes maybe up to 50 to 100 gigabytes. So yes, it will require some more space on your computer, but I think it's easier. What was even more important is the CPU and the GPU of your computer. If you have a really good GPU, then you can easily run very complex models. But if you only have like a lot of storage space but do not have a good GPU, then what happens is that even though your computer is capable of storing those AI models, when it's actually running, it doesn't have enough RAM space or VRAM space to sustain these models. So I would say, yeah, HDD space matters, but also like getting a good GPU card is even more important. You're welcome. Okay, I'm just going through to see if other people have questions that may have missed.
Which model do you use as writing assistant?
Writing. I would say writing is a very, I would just use one of those general purpose models. Um, so like um, Queen is a good model. GPT OSS here is also this GPT model is provided by OpenAI. So it's kind of like you can think about it as a shrinked version of ChatGPT. And it provides very similar functions to ChatGPT, although it's smaller in size. So I think there are a couple of GPT models or Gamma. Those all of those models I think in general are really good. This like in terms of like grammar checking, writing, um, and I think you can also kind of experiment it yourself to see which one you like more, right? Right. So you can download these different models and try it out. Because the different models are trained by different data, sometimes I find that like GPT and Gamma, they may be specialized more in like different languages as well. So that could be a factor you could take into consideration as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you and do you recommend having like more than one local, meaning like maybe one for research and then another one more like general related?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Like I'll show you. Um, I have different models, like 5 models here downloaded on Olama. Um, So yeah, you can absolutely have different models, and I find that to be one of the advantages of having local AI models is that you can really have like different models for different specialized tasks, just like you said. And it is very easy to switch between models. You can just simply click into different models and it'll switch the model you're using. So yeah, and I see that as one of the advantages compared to some online AI tools where you're kind of if you're going with one company, you're stuck with this company's models. So yeah, I think that you can absolutely leverage that feature with local AI.
Cool, thanks.
Okay. As a reminder, the slides will be available as well as the recordings after this webinar. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to email me. And I will also be hosting 2 more webinars that's on AI this semester. One of them is on prompt writing. So if you want to register, you can go to CGU Cafe website and you can register there. Okay. If we have no more questions, I'll end the session here. And thank you very much for attending, and thank you all for those questions. And I hope, yeah, hope everyone has a good rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.